Welcome to Betting Weekly Premier League show. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright. 6 winning favourites across week 1 of the EPL, including all bar one at minus money. Shout out to Spurs for letting us down. Don't worry, we're used to it. But with just 21 goals across the 10 games, perhaps the story was the return of the unders. Nigel, were you on? Was anybody on? You did suggest there'd be a little bit of regression, but it was remarkable, really. I don't know if it's the shape of things to come, but unders cash big time.
I've got no money left after last season. I would love to have been on. I would love to. Typical me. I mean, usually whenever there's a big race meeting in England called Cheltenham Festival. It's the biggest race meeting, and I'm usually done my bank on day one. So, and I would have won every match, every race after. But no, I didn't play any. I just thought it was a little bit of a difficult time to get really heavily involved in the season. I had one bet on the Premier League, which was one winner. Last week I didn't really play on any other bet, but I'm a bit gutted really. But I'm sure I'll step in at some stage and it'll go completely the other way.
Jack, any week 1 takeaways, observations, betting thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think you mentioned the minus money favourites won, but we only had 2 covered a handicap, didn't we? So, and one of those was Manchester City against one of the better sides in the league, allegedly, in Chelsea. So it's still a tricky event to go with unless you're going heavy minus money favourites. But yeah, a few of the sides just looked a bit disjointed, to be expected. I think the impact of the Euros this season and Copa has just meant that the staggered nature of the squads have come back, has left teams a little bit undercooked going into the start of the campaign, and they kind of just got enough done, which would suggest why there was probably unders there as well. But we'll see how it progresses on, and we can start piecing some actual season form together with what we've taken from pre-season.
All 10 games covered on the Premier League show this season. We've got picks and leans, and at least this week the boys have sort of grown apart with their selections rather than played in the same game as they did a week ago.
Mate, I don't think that's going to happen again this season. I think that is just a freak occurrence. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, we've got 6 games that we've got official plays in, either 1 unit or 2 unit or the hot dog, and we've got same game parlay that Nigel is going to tackle for us, and it is a fairly spectacular one at that. We'll get to it over the course of the show. We're going to go game by game, time by time order. So we're going to kick off with the Saturday morning kickoff as it is in the States, 7:30 Eastern. It's lunchtime, of course, in the UK. And we talk about teams finding their rhythm. Perhaps Brighton have already. They are plus 150 to beat Manchester United at plus 165. The draw plus 260 here. Brighton are the favourites, Jack. This is nothing new. They have been favourites in 2 of the last 3 meetings. Is there still some juice in the price here? Talk us through this one, because you've got a 1 unit playing it.
I have, gone straight in with the first kickoff. So I think there is a little bit, with Brighton. I would say that Brighton were probably the most impressive side last week. Certainly the one that surprised me the most. I did say, didn't I, in the last week's show, that it was a big start-up for Hertzger going up against the grizzled old campaigner, a bit like me coming on the Premier League show, really. But it was, Sean.
Don't talk about Dan like that. Don't talk about Dan like that. That's out of order.
I left that open, didn't I? I left that open. So, I think, and he came out with flying colours. I thought Brighton were superb initially. There's the card. It's the first one of the season. It won't be the last. And, obviously Everton did pick up a red card, but the game was got done by then. They'd scored 2, and then they went on to press home the advantage. But a really good performance. We're now going to have to see if that was a one-off, if it was Brighton being especially good, Everton being especially bad. But up against the Man United side here that I think, again, were a little bit underwhelming last week. We said that they've got echoes of a repeat performance from last season. Same manager, same kind of problems. And that kind of started off that way, didn't it? If you remember last season, they got off to a 1-0 win, rather fortunate against Wolves. And so I think it was a little bit underwhelming against Fulham, a late goal to get the win. And I just think a side with lots of energy like Brighton is not the match that Man United want. And away from home, I think Brighton can press home the advantage if they play as well as they did last week. So that's the overrider for me. If they can follow that up, then they'll have enough to beat United here at plus money, and say it's my 1 unit play.
Yeah, wanting to play plus 150 at the moment. I mean, this is the question, Nigel, for bettors really, is has the price gone here? Because a few seasons ago, United, even if they're playing badly, they're around about even money, aren't they? Now they're not. Is there still juice in the price here? That's the question, I think, for moneyline plays. So I think most people think, yeah, well, Brighton could win this game. It's all about the price.
Well, not last season, the season before, neutral ground, the FA Cup semi-final, Brighton were favourites. On a neutral pitch. That shows you how bad Man United are in the markets. The market don't like him. My only worry, I think Jack touched on it there, I think it's a little bit too early to judge. I'm a little bit worried. I mean, Brighton were brilliant performance in the first match, but Everton, I mean, it could be that the fact that Everton are abysmal. Everton had a terrible XG. Brighton created 1.74 of XG, but Man United created even more, 2.04. They should have scored, should have made it 2-0. At the end, the miss, was it Garnacho made the miss? Yeah. It was an amazing miss. I'm not quite sure what to make of either side, and I think I'm going to say that throughout the season of Manchester United. I'm not quite sure what to make of either side. My only concern is this come a little bit too early to go too full in. Like Jack's quite confident there. I think it's a little bit too early. I mean, go back to, was it 3 seasons ago, where Tottenham started in the Premier League. They were top of the Premier League after 3 games, and next month the manager was sacked. He was manager of the month and he was gone. I think we get a little bit carried away on one matches, so that would be a little bit of a worry for me. United lowest scorers in the league and the top half. That campaign, I think that highlights where their problem is, and you saw the chances they missed. They can't convert the chances. 8 matches in the Premier League between these two. The last 7, both teams have scored no. I don't think it's going to be a goal fest. I think it's going to be quite tight. So my lean here is both teams to score no at plus 143. But as far as the money line is concerned, I'll leave that to Jack to get involved. For me, one match in, I wouldn't really get too carried away.
Fulham versus Leicester is a 10 a.m. Kickoff stateside, Eastern Seaboard. Fulham here minus 124, Leicester plus 340, the draw plus 265. Nigel, you were successful with your 2-unit play last week, your banker, and you've gone in again here with a significant wager, this time on the home side.
Yeah, I've gone for Fulham. I've got a sneaky feeling Fulham are going to do quite well this season. I thought they played quite well against Manchester United. They contained them till the last 10 minutes. They tried to hit them on the counter-attack. A couple of better final balls, they would have put the ball in the back of the net. And now they take them back at Craven Cottage, first home game of the season. It's a new look Craven Cottage there. They've got swimming pools and everything. Guys are trying to send me a box for about 24 grand if you want to go half each. But I mean, it's an amazing setup down there at Fulham. But I've got a feeling they're going to do well this season. We touched on it before. Emil Smith-Rowe, I think he's going to be one of the signings of the season. He didn't play the full match against Manchester United. Took him off and they conceded. And they didn't look as well without him. But back at home, where they've got a good record when they're the favourites. I mean, last season when they were minus money favourites, they did well, as you've said in the piece that you sent through to us today. But they beat Luton. They beat Sheffield United and they beat Nottingham Forest. So they did well against teams they're supposed to beat. 2 of the teams that went down, they beat at home. I expect this Leicester side to go down. My argument for this bet is that we should be sitting here looking at Leicester as a team that looked beaten by Tottenham 4-1. There should have been 3 or 4-0 down at half time. There's no doubt about it. Now, if they got beat 3 or 4-1, what price would Fulham be for this match? Well, everyone would be saying Leicester are in trouble. They'd be minus 150 minimum. They're minus 124, and I think there's a little bit of margin in that. They've got a goal scorer at home in Muniz, who scores goals for them as well. I know Jack's going to come on to him in a minute. I think here Leicester, reliant on a Jamie Vardy, who hasn't trained, who scored the goal, spent the next day in an oxygen tent. I mean, to be able to get him to keep playing it every week is going to be tough ask for them. And I think Fulham have got something about them this season. I think they're a side that do well at home. They beat Arsenal at home last year. You know, they've done well there. And I think against the bottom sides, Fulham are too good. And I expect Fulham to have a good day here. So my 2-unit bet is on the Fulham side at minus 124, who I still believe could break into the top half of the Premier League this season. And I just think the market has got flattered with that Leicester draw. Because if that had gone to the way that it should have gone, we would see here Leicester bottom of the table. Everyone's saying that they're going to go down. It's a big rise up. But because they 1-1, Vardy scored, everyone's bought into this fairy tale. But I think Leicester will come down to earth with a bump on the banks of the River Thames in South London on Saturday.
Just on that, Nigel, I'll come back to you for this before we get Jack's lean. It is one of those things that bettors have got to look at. Do you believe the result, or do you believe the XG, or even the market move? And there was some big money for Spurs ahead of that game. And sometimes, I know it sounds ridiculous, you've got to push the result aside and you've got to say what were the underlying metrics in terms of where the money came from and indeed on the pitch as well. Sometimes you've got to sort the wheat from the chaff.
Well, I think if anybody has bet Tottenham at the weekend or a parlay got let down by Tottenham, you'd wake up and think to yourself, how on earth have we lost that bet? Now, you can look at all the metrics. Now, the metrics for Tottenham weren't very high. I think their metrics were only 1.74, something like that. But when you watched it, they were dominant.
Oh,
all the possession.
First half an hour, I thought they were excellent.
They should have been 3 or 4-0 up. And if they had converted their chances, which I think they will, they've got Solanke who made his debut. They're going to take a bit of time to gel. If they played that game again in 2 months' time, I think they'd convert the chances and be 3-0 up at half time. So I think here that the market has just got a little bit carried away with Leicester's performance, getting that draw, the late goal. Vardy at his age, I don't think he'll last the season. And I think he's even going to struggle to compete in the early part of the season as well. So Fulham for me, -124, good home side. They beat the teams in the bottom half, and I think they'll win this one. And that's my 2-unit play this week, my banker bet, Fulham.
Jack, Nigel referenced the goal scorer that you like for a bit of a lean here.
Yeah, I've gone for the lean on Muniz to score at any time. They're at +180, is he, currently?
Yeah.
I think, the eye test was the most important thing as far as that game was concerned, because you can look at the data, but when you see it and you watched it and you saw how it unfolded, it was unbelievable how Spurs didn't win that game. So I think that Leicester, there was a couple of lines I liked. I did like the Fulham money line here. I did also like Fulham corners because I think they got 8 away at United, and Leicester conceded 13, I think, against Spurs. They do sit very deep, and Fulham have got some good wide players in Iwobi, and they've got Traore on the other side. They like to get the ball into Muniz as well. So I think that's a line, but it was a very high line, so I swerved that, and I went with the guy instead, Muniz, because I think he's going to be a focal point like Solanke was for Spurs. Solanke missed 2 or 3 very good chances. He'd be disappointed he didn't get on the score sheet on his debut against Leicester, and I think Muniz will take at least one of those. He had a great record at home last season. He was on fire for them at that back end of the season. So carried that form into his first home game. So he didn't get on the score sheet against Man United, but I'm taking him as a lean here at plus money.
Yeah, 7 goals in his last 8 home Premier League matches for Fulham, +180 as a lean. Sticking with the 10 a.m. Saturday kick-off Eastern, Palace against West Ham here. Palace +116, West Ham +225. It looks big to me, but Jack, you've got your 2-unit play here, and I thought you mentioned something interesting with the Brentford Palace game last week. You said, look, when you get prices that just look wrong, and this was an overs play that cashed, you've got to take notice. Is it a similar theme here, do you think, with this one for you?
Do you know, it's pretty much identical, to be honest with you. Prices are very, very similar. Not much has changed other than one of the sides playing. Obviously, we played Brentford versus Palace last week, and I must say, Nigel was very unlucky not to cash his hot dog last week with that draw.
Shout out Eze.
Eze, that goal, how that was disallowed, that was criminal, really, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I've gone with the same bet here in the Palace game. So over 2.5 goals is my banker. So 2 units at -129. And generally, I think that these sides have got lots of attacking talent. I think West Ham had the 4th worst defensive record last season. Only the bottom 3 will conceded more goals. Lopetegui's going to take a little bit of time, I think, to get that a lot tighter. We saw that last week, conceded a couple against Villa, but caused problems as well at the other end. They should have had a draw as well, with Souček missing a gilt-edged opportunity as well at the end. And as far as Palace is concerned, yeah, Elise's a miss, but while they've got Eze, they've got so much talent in that forward area. Mateta obviously played a part of that game. Expect him to get more game time as well, and he's scoring goals for them. So I think there is threats at both ends, because West Ham have, as we've said last week, recruited exceptionally well in those forward areas. So expect that to start clicking. As far as people who, stats wise, this is quite surprisingly actually very supportive of the bet. Over 2.5 goals is cashed in 8 of the last 10 Crystal Palace home games. They've scored in each of their last 12 at home, so they have got a very good threat going forward. They've got lots of forward players. It wasn't just reliant on Elise. As I said, they've got some real good talent in there, and have recruited well as well. But they have conceded an 11 of 15 as well. The one area you would suggest they were a bit strong and why over 2.5s were missing last season was because of their strong defence. But when you've got both centre-halves at the minute being linked with moves away, that's going to be unsettling in that respect. So we might see one of them not even, or both of them not even playing this week. So the fact that they defensively weren't too bad at the end of last season doesn't really worry me too much in this particular bet. As far as West Ham is concerned, over 2.5 in their last 6 away games. 16 of 18 went over 2.5 for West Ham away from home last season. And they scored in 5 of the last 6 on the road and conceded in all their last 9. They only kept 1 clean sheet on the road last season. That defence was their problem. But I think there's, I'll repeat it, so much attacking talent from both sides here that I can see goals. So over 2.5 is the 2-unit play for me this week.
Yeah, around about minus 125 at the moment. Nigel, I really like West Ham at plus 225 here. Have you got any thoughts on this one quickly?
I like the over 2.5. I'd agree with Jack here. If it was the old format, this would be my third selection. So I wouldn't have to put the dog in. This would have been my third selection. I mean, Palace were really unlucky not to get something, as Jack said. I think West Ham were really unlucky not to get something against Aston Villa.
They were.
That was another match I bet the draw in. I had a lean for the draw.
That Souček miss was it 0.93 of an of a goal, wasn't it? XG or something like way higher than a penalty. Anyway, sorry.
The XG on their match was 2.8 for West Ham, and they lost the match, which is incredible. I mean, 38 goals in the last home Palace, 9 last home Palace matches. So the 38 goals featured, averaging 4.22 per game. That's across both sides as well, and 5-2 in this fixture last season as well. You got to remember. And that was right at the end of last season. These two sides have got better, I would say, especially West Ham better attacking-wise. Palace have obviously weaker without the League, but I would say that if Palace don't have those defenders, they're weaker defensively. So a match that produced 7 goals not so long ago, 5 games from the end of the season, with a team that's probably improved and another side that's probably weakened a little bit, got weaker at the back. We've got to get goals as well. So I like that over 2.5 here at minus 125. I agree with Jack, and like I say, if it was the old system from last year, it would definitely be one of my 3 picks.
Yeah, so sort of unofficially a 3-unit play. Man City Ipswich, 10 a.m. on Saturday, 3 p.m. local. City here are minus 1,667. They've been cut. Ipswich are 30-1. The draw is plus 1150. Jack's got his hot dog on this, but I just want to chat to Nigel very quickly here. 30-1 here. I mean, I don't know what it is on the exchanges. I mean, 30-1, Nigel. I've not looked at when a team was 30-1. So, I mean, this is 20 years ago. This just wouldn't happen. 30 years ago.
The biggest win I can ever remember. Well, Crystal Palace went there and won, didn't they? They were about 25-1.
But they weren't 30, which means exchange price was probably 45. I don't know.
Blackburn were 50-1 to beat Man United one year, and they beat them at Old Trafford. That was the biggest price ever team to win in the Premier League.
But I don't even think that was a regular. But that might have been an exchange price anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're 30-1 to a reason. I mean, this is the best team in European football. They're going to have a majority of their players back. They played with a weakened side, and they battered completely in control against the Chelsea side and won it 2-0 and could have won 3 or 4. They're the best team we've seen for years and years and years, and they're up against a side who was in League One 2 seasons ago. Exceptional manager. But this is a very, very different from what they've been used to. So I do think here, I mean, if you look at Man City last season against the promoted clubs, 2-0, 5-0, 3-1. If you look at the win to 0, it's minus 195. If Haaland to score at any time, minus 195. They're going to be popular plays, but they're minus 195. I'm going to let Jack tell you what he's
give us your lead. Give us your lead.
But I'd go for a lean City to win and both teams to score, which I know is different from Jack, with plus 160, because I couldn't play any of those markets to win to 0 at minus 195.
We've got a hot dog here. This is what hot dogs are all about. European show, we had it for the whole of last season. We didn't get anything this price. But hot dogs and same game parlays and the Premier League show, they are different beasts, ladies and gentlemen, this season with Nigel and Jack. Jack, give us your hot dog.
Yeah, it's not Ipswich to win. You'll be delighted to know, but that would have been a big one. The reason behind the hot dog really is I've had a look through, and there was nothing really around that kind of price. The minimum we were looking at, like sort of the plus 200, plus 300, that really struck me. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for something a little bit more exotic. So I'm going with the correct score here. Me and Nigel, we did a few correct scores last season. We hit a few, actually more than a few. So we have got quite a bit of decent good form in this. And Man City are a side that I actually do like going for a correct score, because you kind of knowing, especially when against the weaker sides, that generally speaking they are going to win, they are going to score goals. It's can they keep a clean sheet, and how many are they going to score? So I am going with them to keep a clean sheet here. The correct score I've gone for is 5-0. It's just a bet or a score that I do like. I've bet on their scores a few times, and I tend to like that 5-0. It just has a ring about it. As you say, you look at, they scored 5 in 3 games last season. They scored 6 in 1 as well, but they can go and take teams apart. We know that. And I think this Ipswich side, Nigel touched on it, League One, a couple of seasons ago. That's the third tier of English football, back-to-back promotions. And I looked at their lineup against Liverpool and I thought, do you know what? That's not really much different from not only their Championship side, but there's a lot of element about their League One side in that. So coming to the Etihad, as again Nigel says, is a different beast. This is the hardest game you can have in European world football. And it's a massive step up in class. And they did well against Liverpool for a decent while, but eventually Liverpool broke them down and they should have scored 3 or 4 goals as well. So be it City come out of the blocks, put this one to bed early and then put some icing on the cake later, that's an option. Or they just tire Ipswich out. They'll have about 80% of possession. They will get the job done. And as I said, at plus 900, I think it's a little dart I like to throw as the hot dog here. It's a very juicy one. It's more of a Bratwurst. This one is huge.
Just to put something in comparison as well. I mean, last week Ipswich played against Liverpool and they played a striker, El Hamadi, up front. He started the game. I saw him in about February last year, and he was playing AFC Wimbledon against Mansfield, and the Mansfield centre half had him in his pocket. And now he's playing against Haaland and the Liverpool last week. I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but this time last year he was lining up at the likes of AFC Wimbledon against Crawley and Morecambe and places like that, and now he's in the first 2 fixtures in the season he's playing against Liverpool and Manchester City. That is the difference, and that's why they're 33-1 or 30-1, whatever it is.
I think Haaland will have his eyes set on this one. He's going to lick his lips here, thinking he can put a real marker down for the Golden Boot. He seems quite bullish about his form, and his confidence at the moment is high. So this could be anything, but yeah, like for a dart, 5-0.
4-0, 5-0, 6-0. You Dutch, that's plus 250. That's hot dog territory, but you boys are going for it. I don't mind that. If it's 5-0, 81st minute, are you cashing out, Jack?
No.
Hedgins for Gardens,
No,
Nigel.
81st, 10 minutes to go and add it on time. Hey, what are you doing? Are you taking your money?
You've got to go with it. You've got to go with it.
You've got to stay in. Southampton Forest is also 10 a.m. Saturday. Plus 150 Saints. Forest plus 170 here. Draw plus 245. Interesting one from Nigel. This is an official play. This is a 1-unit pick. Saints failed to break down 10 men. Newcastle had a lot of possession, a lot of chances, or significant chances. Didn't get the job done, but you're siding with them sort of here, Nigel.
I thought they played all right. I thought they played okay. I mean, they're
Played
gone
against
to
10
Newcastle.
men.
Yeah, but like they're playing against Newcastle, isn't they? If they played 10 men at home, it'd be slightly different. They're away. It's the first match in the Premier League. I thought they'd done all right. I know they didn't win the game playing against 10 men, but there's a difference of playing against 10 men against a Newcastle or top 6 and a team at the bottom. But usually, obviously, sometimes when teams go down to 10 men, it doesn't really make much of a huge difference until the latter stages of the matches. So I think the sending off obviously cost me and Jack both our bets last week. I think Jack was exceptionally unlucky with his 2-unit play on Newcastle minus 1.5, which you would have thought would have cashed. And obviously, Isaac obviously was then at sole up front. He was coming deeper because he was down to 10 men. So I think that really sort of cost us both. But I do think Southampton looked okay. I know they created almost 2 goals XG, which is pretty good. No one would have expected that. And I think the fans would have come away from that. They would have been despondent that they never got something, but they would have thought to themselves, you know what, we've held our own here and we've done okay. They're playing against the Nottingham Forest side who drew 1-1 in the opening match of the season against Bournemouth, and they didn't play very well. And they've got a lot of new players and they've got to blend them in quick. I think if they don't get off to a good start in the next 6 or 7 matches, then I think he's gone, the manager there, Nuno. I think their owner will get rid of him as quickly as possible if there's a threat of relegation. I also think that Forest, we all know about their road record. I mean, their road record is terrible. 5 wins on the road in their last 2 Premier League seasons. I know they were slightly better last year with 4 wins, but 1 win of the season before that. They've held on to avoid relegation by the skin of the teeth last season. They've had the points deduction. They've just held on. And I worry about Nottingham Forest this year. I think they spent a lot of money on unproven players, like lots of money on players that I haven't even heard of. I had to Google half of them to find out who they are. I mean, like £45 million on players. I'm thinking, I've never heard of them. So I think they're applying desperation. But I think Southampton, first home match of the season, I don't see Southampton getting beat here. I think Forest will be quite content with a draw. 2 draws of the season, not too bad here. And I'm going to go for the draw no bet. So I'm going to go for Southampton on the draw no bet with that extra security that if it's a draw, we get our money back on the push. The price is minus 122. I think, I was quite impressed with Southampton despite that not winning against the 10 men. But Forest, I thought they were hanging on at the end against Bournemouth, and Bournemouth should have probably edged it. But I fancy Southampton to get something here. I was quite keen on them on the money line. There was a bit of a negative in the week for on the money for the money coming for Forest, but now the money's come back for Southampton, and I expect the money to continue for Southampton to build up here because of that Forest road record. So -122, I think that's a great bet to take about a side that have only won 5 times in 40 matches over the last 2 seasons on the road.
We've got a lean from Jack, who's on the unders train.
Yeah, under 2.5 goals is plus money in this one, isn't it? Plus 115. That is my lean, mainly because I'm not convinced by either the attacks, really. Adam Armstrong leads the line for Southampton. Very good record at championship levels. Not quite cut it in the Premier League so far. And Forest, you look at their side, the attack with Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood scoring goals for them, Alanga and the likes of Hudson-Odoi that they've had in there. And they still don't quite seem to be able to make the most of that. And maybe that's a Nuno thing. Maybe he just keeps the reins on a little bit. As Nigel says, road record away is poor. They'd probably sign for a draw as well just to get out of that with another point. So, yeah, I'm going under 2.5 goals in this one at plus money, mainly for those reasons of a bit of a blunt attack at both ends.
Quick fire on the other game on Saturday that we've not covered by way of an official pick, but we've got leans on the Spurs-Everton game. Spurs are short price, -235, Everton plus 575, draw plus 380 at time of recording. Nigel, very quick thoughts on this one?
Spurs -235. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, it looks like one of those matches that everyone will have in the coupon, and then everyone will be scratching their head on Saturday evening, going, "Why did I put Spurs in? Why did I trust Spurs?" You've got to expect a bounce back from Everton. You have to. They can't be that bad. They only created 0.41 XG. The manager will work very hard on the training ground to make them defend a little bit better. There's uncertainty behind the scenes. I do think Spurs should edge it. Couldn't trust them at all at -235. The bet for me is if he starts, which is a big if, but if you get the team sheets, Richarlison starts here against his former team. He scored 3 goals last season in the 2 matches against Everton. He's plus 148. And I think they might go to him, proven goal scorer, and give Solanke a little bit of a rest, who didn't put the ball in the back of the net on his debut. The pressure might be on, he might come on. But I think if they revert back to Richarlison, plus 148 to score any time would be my lean.
Speaking of Solanke, Jack's gone big with his lean for this one.
Yeah, I've gone for him first goal scorer. For the reasons we talked about there, I think Spurs do edge it. I can see this being a 1-0, and therefore we'll go with Solanke first goal scorer rather than any time goal scorer. Plus 460, plus 480 is his price currently.
Yeah, 480.
480. And I think that they seemed really wanting to try and pick him out, understandably, against Leicester, and he had 2 or 3 really, really good chances which he didn't put away. And I said they seem to be looking to try and get him on the score sheet. Home crowd right behind him here, and I'll take him to get the first goal at a decent price.
My fear with Solanke is that one or two of you boys are going to put him in every single week, and we're going to be saying the same things about him every single. It'll be like November, and he still.
I think there's also pressure. I think the other thing with Solanke as well, but a lot of people don't realise is that is pressure on him now. He's gone for big money. He's 50 million. He's going to be linked in the England squad. The pressure's on him. When he's at Bournemouth, no pressure on him. He's a top man. He could put the ball in the back of the net. Now he's got a big club. If it doesn't work out for him in 4 or 5 matches, 6 matches,
that's it.
That's a difference. So I think
listen.
They want to protect him a little bit. I think.
I think this is so true. If you're and it counts for goal scorers, it counts for keepers. If you're last on match of the day, which is the UK TV highlight show on a Saturday, I'm sure that American watchers will know all about it. No one cares if you miss a sitter from 6 yards. You're last on. It's the credits are rolling. But if you're playing for Spurs or Arsenal, or United, or whatever, and you start missing chances, let's hope he scores this week.
And he didn't. He's got to remember, this boy's gone to Liverpool before.
Oh yeah, he's been around. He's at Chelsea, he's a youngster,
and he never delivered, did he? At Liverpool, big money move there.
Sorry, Jack, we're absolutely slaughtering your play here.
No, but I think they need to protect him. What I'm saying is, he might be feeling down in week after. I'm not quite sure with his start. Richarlison against his former team may get the edge, and he might bring him on. That team news is crucial. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'd be shocked if they don't give him. I think that'd be a real dent to his confidence if they pull him out after one game. So I'd expect him to start, but we'll see how it goes. As you say, team news vital for both our selections here.
Will he be? I think we talked about this last week. Will he be on pens?
I don't think.
I know Ashley Young's not playing. He's Ashley Young. Is because Everton give the old penalties away, don't they? Ashley Young was sent off last week.
Son takes penalties, didn't he?
I'd imagine it'd be Son, yeah.
That's Saturday, done and dusted up until the late game, which is tea time game in the UK. and it's 12:30 Eastern. This is Aston Villa versus Arsenal. Big game of the weekend, no doubt about it. Arsenal are minus money favourites, minus 134. Got done home and away by Aston Villa last season, who are plus 340. Nigel tipped up Villa at a massive price win at Emirates late last campaign. Hopefully you were on that, and he's gone even bigger for the same game parlay. This is what the same game parlay. I've not got a drum, else I'd do a drum roll. I need one of those iPhone sort of apps to give you a drum roll here. This is huge. This is Nigel Seeley, ladies and gentlemen, with the same game parlay.
Yes, I would have put another leg in if I could have done, but Bet Rivers didn't have the other leg in it. I wanted to make it bigger. This is my strategy on this same game parlay. I'm not going to go for like things that are like plus 120 or plus 150. I'm going to go for 25 to 1, 33 to 1, big parlays. And if we get one, we're done for the season. There's only a half a unit stake, and I know a lot of people watch this show, and what they want to do is have an aspirational bet on the weekend. And if it cashes, they win a few quid and a few dollars and have a good night. And that's what we're going to try to do here. That's my strategy here. So my same game parlay for this match is under 2.5 goals. I'm going to go for under 9.5 corners, and I'm going to go for Kai Havertz to score anytime. 20 to 1. Now that's my same game parlay straight in. I would have put in over the bookings as well to make it even bigger. But obviously, if you've got some states in America where Bet Rivers do offer the booking, stick that in. You might get up to 50. But I do think that's a decent bet here. I think this is such a difficult match to call after the first week of the season. So difficult. The one thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't be betting Arsenal at the price. No way. Villa are their bogey side. There is no doubt about it. There's so many subplots here. The goalkeeper Martinez, you've got the manager Emery, who'd done the double them last year. They cost them the league effectively in that game. Really wasn't. And you ask Arsenal fans, that was the game that cost them the league. There's a little bit of fiery nature between these two sides. Well, the last 4 matches between the two of them, the over on the bookings has cashed every single time as well. And I just got a feeling this will be quite low scoring. But I do think Havertz is a very, very underrated player as well in terms of goal-scoring markets. I mean, last week he had 5 shots in the match, which was the second highest in the Premier League. Only Eze had more shots than Havertz last week, joint with Saka. He's always a big price to score at any time because the market doesn't really rate him. He's playing in a more advanced position this year. Arteta has made him his main man, and I think we're getting decent prices on Havertz to score at any time. He scored last week at any time. My only concern is this is a match where I don't expect many goals. So a 1-1 draw will be perfect here. The corners in this match last year were 6. And if you look at the corners at the Emirates, which was a huge match, and Arsenal were behind and had to push forward and push, there was only 10. So you take in the nature, the fact that both of them had a good win. Villa, because everyone was talking about Brighton last week. Villa were probably, to me, right up there with their performance against West Ham. They beat a very good West Ham side and created a hatful of chances. And well, they look like they're going to have another good season. So minus 134, Arsenal. They could win it, but I wouldn't touch that at all. Going to go big on the parlay. Under 2.5 goals, under 9.5 corners. Havertz to score anytime, 20 to 1. And if you can get the bookings, put that in as well. Get about 50 to 1. That's what we're all about in these same game parlays.
Yeah, it will double it. It's around about even money over 4.5 cards. Jack, you sort of buy into this because you've got a lean that backs up one element of Nigel's parlay. I don't know what you think about the other two as well, but talk us about your lean on this one.
Yeah, simple. Under 2.5 goals is my lean, which I did put forward before I saw Nigel's same game parlay. So, yeah, absolutely agree with it totally. Both games cashed for this last season. Huge game. We know about Arsenal's rock-solid defence, and they will be even more on it this week, given, as I said, the history last season with Aston Villa. And I think it was a big thing for them last week that Raya came to the party, officially number 1. Ramsdale's now looking to be moving out as well. And I think he got player of the match, didn't he? But, to have a goalkeeper that's on form is a big thing for them. So, yeah, unders for me here. I think it's going to be very, very tight, very cagey, feisty, as Nigel says. Plenty going on, but not goals.
Are you having Havertz, Jack?
Yeah, I think it's a great bet because, like I say, he's been priced up as he was at the start of last season in the midfield. Arteta dropped him back into midfield for this game last season, and he paid the penalty for that. So I don't think you'll make the same mistake again. I saw some stats that he scored 9 in 14 starts, I think, as a striker for Arsenal, which is a brilliant record. And I think his confidence is high, which it hasn't been. He's 4 seasons in England now. He's at the peak that we've seen him and showing that potential that he had at Leverkusen. So absolutely, yeah, totally agree with any pro Havertz line as well.
We're going to kick off our Sunday previews with an official play from Nigel, and it's the hot dog. We're going big this week with an awful lot of our selections. Liverpool versus Brentford is the main game in the UK. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern on the Sunday. Liverpool obviously short price favourites here. They're minus 455. Brentford just over 10 to 1. The draw 6 to 1. Nigel, your hot dog here. I've sort of missed the boat in the running order here because Salah, as I've given it away, he's brilliant on the opening day of this season. Can he do it again? Because you are focusing on the Egyptian, and it's not any time goal scorer, but it's first goal scorer you're playing. Talk us through this one.
Straight in, first goal scorer, Mo Salah. I think if you'd done that over the years with Liverpool, you'd be sitting with a nice bit of profit over the last few seasons for him. Last week, Liverpool, I was worried about them, and everyone was saying that new look side, new manager, hadn't bought any players, a lot of players going out. There was a lot of money for Ipswich on the Asian handicap, plus 1.5. There was a big move for Ipswich, but Liverpool look good. They look good. They look solid. They look good, and I was quietly surprised by how good they were. I thought Klopp would be a big pair of shoes to replace, but he slotted straight into the role, wasn't he? But
wasn't that the other show you were talking about shoes on this week?
Yes, that's true. But that's 30 grand under beds in shoe boxes. Jesus. He's got a few more shoe boxes after yesterday, that boy.
Yeah, I bet he has, Chance. Don't worry about that.
Anyway, so we go back to I thought Liverpool looked really, really good, and I thought they might have a bit of problems. And obviously it's early days and there's a lot of stuff, but the fixture list has been very kind for Liverpool. To start off with Ipswich and then Brentford at home, you really would be thinking you've got a chance of winning with back-to-back matches. Brentford, obviously, without Ivan Toney the weekend, he won't play again, so that takes a lot of the goalie threat out of them. I know they won without him, but this is Liverpool away. And I'm looking at Salah here. He's played 5 matches against Brentford in his career. He scored 5 goals. He scored last week. He scored the opening goal in the last 2 matches at Anfield against Brentford. He scored the first goal in both matches as well. And I think he's got 3 in total in the last 2 seasons against Brentford. And he scored the 2 goals like in the last 2 seasons, the first goal. So I think at plus 375, Salah, in a game that you would expect Liverpool to win by, I would expect Liverpool to cover the handicap here, 1.5. I think they'd win by 2 goals against a Brentford side. Okay, or beat at home Crystal Palace, but this is a step up, and you need Tony in your side to cause some problems. I think they'll get found out without him eventually, and I think Liverpool are the perfect side to capitalise on that. And Salah on penalties as well, 5 in 5 against Brentford to score the first goal, plus 375. That is my hot dog this week.
Yeah, shade minus money if you want to play him to score at any time. Speaking of any time goal scorers, Jack, you've got a lean, still sticking with Liverpool here.
Yeah, well, the traders are expecting 4 goals in this game, aren't they? And as you say, you'd expect Liverpool to win it. So you're looking at them getting 3, really, at least, aren't you? So I went for Diogo Jota as far as my lean is concerned. Anytime goal scorer. Odds on him is plus 108. So yeah, decent odds. I think obviously scored the opener last week. Looked a threat. He's the central player. Obviously Slot likes him there instead of like Nunes certainly at the moment. And while he's scoring goals, that ain't going to change. Brentford are weak down the wide areas, so expect Diaz and Salah to have a little bit of a field day there. Obviously his chances of scoring goals, but also getting the ball into the box for Jota, who's there to finish him off. He missed a couple of chances last week as well as scoring. So, yeah, I think this is a nice play at plus money. Any of those Liverpool scorers look decent picks. So, I say at plus money for any time. We'll have Salah score the first and Jota can score the next.
Perfect.
I'm just trying to work out who's playing left back for Brentford, because you're right, they've had a bit of a mare, haven't they, with fullbacks recently, and I'm sure it's a centre half playing at left back at the minute. It's Christopher Ayer who's playing at left back, and that'll present a problem for him. I thought he was a centre half more often than not. They've got one or two
he's
issues
tall
at the
and
back.
he's not the most mobile. So yeah, that's their area of problem. So Salah, perfect match up for him.
2 more games to cover on the Sunday service for Betting Weekly. Let's get a few leans before we wrap up from the boys here. Both 9 a.m. kickoffs on Sunday in the States, 2 p.m. in the UK. Bournemouth against Newcastle. First up, Bournemouth are plus 200. Newcastle are plus 118 here. The draw plus 280. Nigel, anything catch your eye on this one? Newcastle just a shade bigger than even money on the money line.
Newcastle, obviously, the suspension to their centre half is a big blow for them here. Eddie Howe returning to his former club. They will be kicking themselves that they got that sending off that prevented them. But the celebrations after when they won that game was like they won the Premier League. I couldn't believe it. They won 1-0 at home in the first day of the season against Southampton, and they were winning like they won the league. Howe's record. Hal's record against his former club is a bit mixed. I mean, Bournemouth won there last season, but in the last 10 matches between these two sides, there's been 5 draws. And I'm not convinced as yet by Newcastle. I think Bournemouth are a side that could be a little bit underrated. So I'm going to go for a draw here for my lean at plus 280.
Okay, just the draw for Nigel. Just a lean, and we got a lean as well from Jack also. This has got Solanke vibes all over it. Go on.
Yeah, going back to the well here, aren't we? So I'm going with Alexander Isak. This time Alexander. Yeah, so
Clip that
keep your
up.
players on. I know. They're both. Well, it's going to be a double this week, no problems at all. But yeah, I think this is quite a tough game to call because there's more questions than answers, really. Bournemouth without Solanke. They brought in Avan Nielsen, haven't they, as his replacement? They seem to move quite quick there, so you'd assume that they've kind of identified that as a decent like-for-like replacement. Pressure's on him because it's a massive focal part of the system under Iraola. And is he going to hit the ground running fresh into the season? So it's a case for me on Bournemouth would be a little bit of a watch and brief before I do anything official on them. And as far as Newcastle, we can't really work out what happened with them last week because of that being down to 10 men so early. So we'll see what goes on this one. I say it's a definite watch and brief, really. But if I'm having a lean, I'll go for Isak, who to score for Newcastle at plus 120.
Also, Wolves-Chelsea to wrap things up with here. Jack, your lean for me is bet of the week. This is a fantastic bet. I mean, a lot of recency bias because I saw Wolves last week. Talk us through it.
Is it? Well, we might as well move on to Nigel's pit then. Yeah, I've gone with double chance, Wolves or tie, at plus 106 as my lean here. I thought Wolves were okay against Arsenal. They had lots of chances and pretty much what we said. They did. And as I said, reports I saw was that Rayo picked up the player of the match. So it says it all when the keeper does that. But, yeah, I think we said it last week. Wolves' problem is sticking the ball in the back of the net. Toughest thing to do. So can they do that against Chelsea? What kind of Chelsea are we going to get? Again, I just think that with this at the price, getting the draw on side and Wolves, who were pretty impressive. And Gary O'Neill's been quite spiky over the last week or 2 weeks. See if they can get some players in. They need them for certain. But at the minute, he's gone with a fairly youthful setup. And sometimes you get forced to put these players in that actually then go and perform for you. Say Chelsea are just all over the place, aren't they? And so they were poor against Manchester City, albeit that is Manchester City. So they've got a game in Europe tonight as we're recording on Thursday. So a quick turnaround for them before they then have to go into action on Sunday. That plays a part in it as well. And I just feel that Wolves at home can potentially pick up something from this game, and that's all we need on the double chance at plus money.
Yeah, plus money, Wolves or the tie. Yeah, Chelsea playing tonight against the Vet in the Conference League qualifiers. But Nigel, let's face it, they do have a big enough squad to rotate.
Well, I've got here Chelsea playing tonight, but they've got a 122-man squad written on my sheet. They're playing their 8th 11 tonight, and they're still. I think it's a real tough match to call. I think it's one of the hardest matches on the coupon. I think Chelsea will spark at some stage, not because of any tactical genius, but they've got players who can change matches. Cole Palmer can change a match. I was impressed with Nkunku. I thought he played all right against it. His final ball, they look rushed in the final third. They sort of made the final ball delivery and the passing wasn't right. But I think they'll get it right at some stage. They have to. They've got enough players to get it right. I pretty much agree with your assumption there that Wolves will get something from them. They did the double over Chelsea last season as well, famously winning 4-2 at Stamford Bridge. But I'm going to stick with this. This is Solanke, Isak and Nkunku. These are the 3 go-to men.
Here we go.
I'm going to go for Nkunku at plus 190 for my lean to score at any time.
Perfect.
Nigel, Jack, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We keep everyone updated via our Twitter feeds. Just a reminder of the boys' P&L so far. You can see that on screen. We are, of course, still in the embryonic stages of the season. It will rise, we promise you, over the course of this season. That is a wrap for Betting Weekly. Premier League show will be back next week for picks, plays, hot dogs, same game parlays. Follow us at Because We Win. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Plenty of content. We've got the live show, the winners flying in left, right and centre, 11 a.m. Eastern every single midweek day. We've got the tennis content as well with the US Open start. When are you in New York, Nigel? When are you going next week?
I'm going. I'll be flying this time next week. So we've recorded on Wednesday, aren't we? Wednesday night.
Yeah, we are. Good luck with that. Plenty of content from Flushing Meadow and Nigel in New York. That is it for now for the Premier League show, though. We'll speak again next week.